Hi, and thanks for joining. Welcome to our What Sold video for March 10th through 16th. I'm Wendy, and this is Kevin. He's joining me again today for our What Sold video. Usually it's just me, but I'm talking him into helping me out. So let me know if you guys enjoy that in the comments below. Maybe he'll join me for future videos because I enjoy having him here. So whether you guys like it or not.
Thanks, honey.
All right, so we're gonna dive right in, but before we do that, I'm gonna show a few disclosures on the screen. I'm not gonna say all of this anymore just because I repeat it a lot, but it is important information for anybody who's new. So take a look at all of this information about our numbers and about our business. You can pause the screen if you need to. So here it is.
And we're back.
And the first thing that sold was a pair of Barbie yellow slip-on open-toe heels or shoes. We got these out of the Goodwill bin. They were in a big bag of yellow Barbie shoes, and we've been making a lot of money on those. They sold for $8.53, and we had paid 61 cents for those. Next up was two postcard prints from a local Texas artist named Henrietta Milan. And we had gotten both of those from another business that we own, which is a custom picture frame shop. Those both sold for $17.98.
And they were able to go in an eBay standard envelope, which is great.
That's true.
Because that saved a ton.
Saved a lot, increased our profit. Next up was a vintage cachet women's white and black beaded sparkle V-neck tank top. We got that at an estate sale. It was actually from the Hoarder estate sale. We paid $5 for that, and it sold for $46. There was so much interest on this item, but I just couldn't get anybody to buy it.
Took a long time.
Did take a long time, but it finally sold for $46. We had to keep lowering the price. So I don't know if the brand cachet was what was appealing to people about it, or if it was the style of the item, but lots of interest on that item.
Good profit. Next
up was a pair of men's Aeropostale blue jeans. We got those out of a storage unit for 24 cents, and they sold for $22.99. Next up was a lot of two Francoma pottery teacups. We got those at a garage sale for just 75 cents, and they sold for $22.38. Next up was a orange pocket Bible. It was a New Testament Gideon Bible. We got that at a thrift store for 35 cents, and it sold for $11.99. Next was a vintage 1982 miniature 2-inch book. So little bitty book, like that big.
It was really small.
Yeah. And that was called The Pie and the Patty Pan by Beatrix Potter. And I put the word dollhouse in the title because you could use it as a dollhouse accessory.
It's like a Barbie-sized book, yeah.
We had no cost on that, and it sold for $13.58.
And I was also able to send that one eBay standard, and that saved a ton of money.
Nice.
Like $3.
Good job. Next up was a vintage Eli Cattleman black jacquard stripe pearl snap-up Western shirt.
Love me some pearl snap Western shirts.
True, they sell well. It's a good pickup. We got that at a church rummage sale for $3.25, and it sold for $29.99. And actually, we couldn't find this one.
Yeah, it was not in the... This almost never happens to us, but we bought a bunch of stuff that day, and I think one of us yelled E5, and it was actually in C5.
Yeah,
so it took us some digging to find it, but we found it.
Yeah, so I think that was literally the first time it's happened.
Yeah, our system is very organized. Yeah. We normally find things very easily.
We didn't panic, though. I knew it was in there.
Oh, no, we knew it was.
Yeah, but we had to go through like 5 bins.
I just said, we just looked on the spreadsheet, too, and see what was next to what the other one was. Yeah. And we just looked in that bin, and that's where it was.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Okay, next up was one of my old computers, like a very old computer. It was probably 15 years old. And I thought it was hilarious because the specs on the computer that were listed on it was really promoting that it was only 6 pounds.
It was enormous.
It was so thick and heavy.
It was like 2 inches thick.
Yeah.
It was a brick.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, only 6 pounds. Gee whiz.
And honestly, that thing was horrible.
It was such a big computer. All right, so that was a Dell Inspiron notebook notebook, laptop, computer. We had the cord and everything. It worked. We were able to get it back to factory settings.
Had Windows 7 on it, I think.
And that sold for $37.50. I don't even know why I held on to that for so long.
We just didn't want to take the time to list it and get rid of it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that bad. It was easy.
Yeah. Next up was a vintage 1983 Mattel Loving You Barbie replacement outfit. It did have some wear and damage, so you'll see I have Read in the title. We actually have a family member who likes to source for us, and they got a big bag of vintage Barbie items for $10. And I was going through that Barbie stuff for a really, really, really long time. But there was some good stuff in there, and this was the first item that sold. This sold for $14 even, and they just gave it to me to sell. They didn't, make me pay them the $10 or anything, so we didn't have any cost. So this was the first of many, I think, that will sell.
But had we paid the $10, we would have made it back.
It would have been pennies on the dollar, yeah.
Like within a week.
Yeah. Next up was a DVD, new and sealed. I think it was like PBS or something.
It was.
Yeah,
it was a PBS.
An American Masters of N. Scott Momaday? How do you say that?
Oh.
Words from a Bear.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was new and sealed, and we got that at an estate sale for $1. It sold for $15.18. Next up was a really good sale, and y'all, we had 2 really good sales this week, so stay tuned for the rest of the video to find out our 2 great sales. The first one was this one. It was a 36 by 24 original oil painting of 2 dogs. It had a golden retriever and a lab, and it was by a Louisiana artist named Sarah Steele, and it was done in 1997. This was actually gifted to us by a client, and they just said, we don't want this anymore, and you can have this. You can do whatever you want with it. And so we were like, well, we know what we're going to do with it.
And we put it on eBay.
So we had no cost, and this sold for $639.98.
So as you see, we only cleared $458 because those eBay fees.
Yeah. We only had it promoted.
Bite.
Well, I think we had this one promoted at 10%.
Yeah, it was like $150 in between eBay fees and promoted fees. It was $150.
Yeah.
Because shipping actually wasn't bad on this at all.
Yeah.
It was the fees that got us on that one.
It was the fees. Next up was a Dolce & Gabbana. I mean, it was an original, actual, real Dolce & Gabbana women's sheer black and pink floral button-up blouse. But the problem with this item is that it had been washed and shrunk. We did disclose that. And so despite it being a different size, I listed it as an extra, extra small. I said exactly what happened in the listing, and we included measurements. We've sold this item before. The buyer actually loved it, but did say that it was just ever so slightly too tight on her. They returned it. But we did sell it again, and we got positive feedback on it this time. We bought that for $1 at a garage sale, and it sold for $50 this time, and we still cleared some good profit on that, so it's still worth it. Next up was a lot of 2 Zuru Blonde Sparkle Girls fashion dolls. They were in pristine condition. They looked like they had never been played with. We got these out of a Facebook Marketplace doll buy. I had paid 67 cents per listing from that buy, and these sold on Mercari for $9.72. Next up was a Kay's Collection white pastel ceramic decorative Easter bunny rabbit. We got that out of the Goodwill bins for $1.18, and it sold for $17.99. I'm always amazed when we find ceramics that are not broken in the Goodwill bins.
I don't know how they don't get broken, the way things get tossed around in there.
Next up was another Goodwill bins find. This was a Lawrence Kazar women's small hand-beaded 100% silk long sleeve evening jacket. It was vintage. We paid $1.18 for that, and it sold for $27.99. It did have some damage to the beading around the neck.
Yeah. It had some like loose strings here and there. Little. Yeah.
Still nice though. I mean, a silk jacket.
Still nice. Yeah. And boy, those things are heavy.
They are heavy.
They are so heavy.
It was beaded all over.
It's. We have another one too.
Yeah. We have another one that's new with tags that we got in the bins.
Yeah.
Next up was an item that we got from the Via Trading swimsuit box. This was a really well-known brand called Ryoku. Ryoku.
Or actually Ryoku.
Ryoku. They always have the most interesting names for Amazon brands.
I think somebody's just sitting there in the factory going,
yeah.
And just hitting keys.
Really seems like it. Really seems like it sometimes. But this was a super cute bathing suit. It had kind of like that Minnie Mouse look to it. Yeah. But it was a red and black and white polka dot bikini. She wore a red and black and white polka dot bikini.
Teeny weeny red and black polka dot bikini.
It was a kid's swimsuit. It was new, obviously, and that sold for $12.94. We started out with 2 of these, and we now have 0.
Yeah, we sold another one after this.
Yeah. Next up was a Cass Creek Pro Series Bighorn Extra Large Outdoor Game Call Speaker. It was new open box. That was gifted to us to sell by a family member. We had no cost, and it sold for $40.
Nice.
Next up was a lot of fake prop Halloween decor chain garlands. It included multiple different sizes of fake Halloween chains. Some of them were really nice.
Yeah, some of them were like, the links were like this big.
You could really trick somebody into thinking that you had something chained up.
Yeah, we got good feedback on that. And he actually said more than what he expected.
Yeah, I think when I measured the length of them, I definitely
went on the low side.
Yeah, I
always
under-promised and over-delivered.
Always do that.
Yeah, you should always do that. So we had paid $2 for that, all of it, at a rummage sale, actually, and it sold for a total of $48. And here it is, the middle of spring, and we sold a Halloween item. I mean, you never know what somebody needs a fake chain for.
Who knows?
What do you think he needed it for?
Maybe he has some sort of dominatrix dungeon decoration. I don't know.
Well, you went there.
I don't know.
All right. Next up was a 2008 Hasbro Original Bop It electronic game. We tested it and it worked. It came out of a storage unit. We had paid $1.16 for it, and it sold for $18.99.
We got good feedback on that one, too. And the person was saying how they enjoyed playing with it so much, they got it for their nieces, and they were thinking about keeping it, or they needed to get one for themselves because they've been playing with it the whole time.
These were really popular during the pandemic. People were buying these because they were stuck at home, needed something to do, and so these were selling a lot then. They've kind of lost their sell-through rate, I guess, somewhat, but still, obviously, this one sold pretty fast. Yeah. So I do think that Bop Its will sell, just not as fast as they were during the height of the pandemic. But yeah, this one was good. Okay, next up was a vintage black and orange blow mold candy Halloween bucket by General Foam, made in the USA. We got this out of the bins for 92 cents, and it sold for $19.98. Next up was a 1993 Curious George paperback children's book and 2 cassette tapes. They were not the cassette tapes they weren't like tapes of the book. They were different stories. But for some, we just lotted them all together because they were all vintage from around the same time. We found these in the bins for $1.33, and they sold for $19.99. Next up was a pair of Cherokee Girls skinny black adjustable waist stretch jeans. These were Nina's. We had no cost. I think they were hand-me-downs, and they sold for only $8.23, and they took a long time to sell.
Well, Cherokee.
Yeah, it's like a Target brand.
It's a good brand.
Yeah. Next up was 2 boxes of tailor-made C-shaped profile edge guard for boat dock edging. So this is like that rubber stuff that you put along the edge of a boat dock so that when your boat bumps into it, it doesn't damage either your boat or the dock, probably more so your boat. And it was new in the box. One of the boxes was open though. We got all of that at a rummage sale for just $3.25. And
same rummage sale, we got the Pearly Snap shirt and the chains.
Yeah. And it sold for $65.
Rummage sales are the best.
I know. Church rummage sales are by far my favorite sourcing location. Next up was a 1990 Fleer Barry Bonds Pittsburgh Pirates baseball card.
Yes.
Yeah, Barry Bonds baseball card. That was Kevin's. It sold for $2.39. Next up was a pair of women's jeans by the brand Paige. They were in the style Skyline, ankle, peg, and they were black and white striped. We got these at the thrift store for $5.40. They sold for $37.99. We did lose some of our profit because we had sold these once before and they came back due to a fit issue.
They seem to be staying gone this time.
Yeah, the person seems happy with them. Next up was a Banana Republic men's blue plaid long sleeve button-up shirt. We got this from the Facebook Marketplace garbage bags of clothes. We paid just 67 cents for this and it sold for $13.60. Next up was an Ann Taylor women's extra small brown ruffle lightweight button-up cardigan sweater. We got this at a thrift store for $2.17 and it sold for $20 on Poshmark. Next up was a Anthropologie brand called Donnie, and it was a one-size gray ribbed open lightweight cardigan and it was new with tags. We got that at a garage sale for $5 and it sold for $17. Next up was a pair of men's Nike Flyknit Racer multicolor shoes, athletic shoes. We got these at a thrift store for $7.41 and they sold for $50.38. And at this time, I'd like to pause for a moment and invite you guys to subscribe to our channel. If you're still watching after all this time, it probably means that you're enjoying this video.
Or you've left the room and forgot to turn it off.
Either way, you should probably hit the subscribe button with the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any of our future content. All right, let's keep going. The next item that sold was a Angelina Ballerina, Meet Angelina Ballerina, new and sealed VHS. We got this at a thrift store for 13 cents and it sold for $10.99.
Sealed VHS.
He has an addiction.
It's my favorite.
Yeah. He's starting to, he's hearing the calling. Yeah, it needs his fix. All right, next up was a men's Under Armour logo t-shirt. We got this out of a storage unit for 28 cents. It sold for $14.99. Next up was a 2-pack of Callaway Golf Dual Mark poker chips. They were like ball markers, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't really know what that is.
Like you hit your ball somewhere. I don't play golf, but I know this. You hit your ball and then you pick the ball up around the green and you mark it where it was so that people can play.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. They were new in the package. We found those at the thrift store for 51 cents and they sold for $10.99. Next up was a Lincoln Logs brown replacement horse for, I guess, like a log cabin set. I mean, what else is there for Lincoln Logs?
I don't know.
We found that in the Goodwill bins for $1.03 and it sold for $7.98. Next up was another Mary Kay item. This one was actually a mineral powder foundation in the color beige, which is discontinued.
Well, she said another, but I think, do we have anything from this sale yet?
No, but if you watched our last week,
from last week, you saw we sold a whole bunch of Mary Kay stuff.
So yes, that's a callback to last week's video. So if you didn't watch last week's video, get up on things. All right.
Jeez. Bossy.
Yeah. Do it though. All right, so we had been gifted that to sell by a family member. We had no cost. This one sold for $24.99.
It's discontinued.
Yeah, discontinued item. Next up was a pair of Levi's boys style 511 slim cut royal blue jeans, new with tags. We got those at a garage sale for $3. They sold for $23.98. Next up was a My Fair Lady Video Club 25th Anniversary Commemorative Edition, a fancy one, VHS box set. Was that new?
I think it was new.
New and sealed. That was purchased at a garage sale for 50 cents. Yeah, why would we buy that at a garage sale? It had to have been new.
Would only,
Yeah. And that sold for $10. Next up was a Smart Start mobile breathalyzer sobriety monitoring kit. Tester, I guess. We tested it and it worked. I mean, we didn't imbibe and then blow in it or anything like that, but we powered it on and it
powered on and it seemed to work properly.
Yeah, don't be getting any ideas about us.
No.
So
it was not ours. We bought it at a garage sale, I promise.
We did. We got that at a garage sale for $5 and it sold for $72.99.
Nice.
So that might be something you want to be on the lookout for. All right, next up was a women's H&M pair of ivory floral print wide leg denim jeans. They were new with tags. These were gifted to us to sell by a family member, so we had no cost, and they sold for $28. Next up was a Lauren Conrad women's gray all over knit lace dress that was also new with tags. This was purchased at a garage sale for $4. I remember the lady at this garage sale was very proud of her items and wanted like $10 for this dress. And I was kind of like, you know, I can give you $2. And we eventually agreed on $4. And
that's good. Had you paid $10, we would have made.
Oh, I would have
money
never
at all.
paid $10. No.
No.
And we ended up making decent profit on that. It sold for $19.99. Next up was a Nike one size strap back TCU baseball embroidered cap. We got that out of Goodwill bins for 67 cents, and it sold for $10.78. Next up was a pair of Jones New York signature women's cuffed jeans. We found those at a garage sale for $1.25, and they sold for $14.99. Seems like an odd thing for us to buy at a garage sale.
I don't know why we would have picked those up.
Especially
not being new.
Yeah, wonder what it was about that. Wonder if it was just in a big bulk
There must have
lot.
been some random reason we got those, because that is not a standard
Yeah.
Cevin and Wendy pickup.
I don't know. I don't remember where we got those or why we got those. Okay, next up was 3 of the Maker's Mark whiskey bandanas that we got out of the Goodwill bins, which has been one of our favorite Goodwill bins finds of all time. I love
They just keep selling.
And it's just a single listing, multi-quantity. We paid $3.54 in total for those, and they sold for $26.97. Okay, next up was a 13-piece mixed lot of Mattel Imaginext figures and replacement parts. Those came out of thrift store toy bags. We paid, 26 cents in total for those, and they sold for $13. I will say that Imaginext toys, parts and pieces will generally sell quickly, or at least for some value. So if you ever find those, definitely pick them up. If you can find complete sets of Imaginext, they can sell for pretty high value. Next up was a 2-piece set of John Hart coral travel pouches. They were personalized with the name Lauren. John Hart, even if it is personalized, will still sell. It's a very high-end luggage and travel bag, purse, brand, accessory kind of company. And sometimes people with, maybe someone named Lauren purchased this one.
The person who bought it, at least their eBay account, their name was not Lauren.
Well, you can have
look.
the patches replaced. So John Hart stuff, even if it is personalized, is still worth sometimes picking up. All right, we had gotten that at the thrift store for $7.56. They were in really good condition, and they sold for $22.48. Next up was a Sims PC Windows game. It was complete game with the box, the manual, and the key code. We got that out of a storage unit for $1.16, and it sold for $19.99, and it sold pretty fast.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Next up was a 1993 Fleer Major League Prospects Sterling Hitchcock card. Sterling Hitchcock.
Yeah, I know. It's quite a name.
Yeah, it's Rod Serling, not Sterling. Sterling or Sterling?
It's Rod Serling.
Sterling. Oh, because it's like what's that show called?
The Twilight Zone?
It's like the Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock came together and made a baseball player.
Sort of, except for not at all.
Yeah, minus the T.
Yeah, there's no T.
We have to spill the tea. All right. So now that we went off on that tangent, that card sold for $2.29.
That was one of my old cards.
Next up was the 1996 Topps commemorative set Mickey Mantle New York Yankees. Was that like all of Mickey Mantle cards?
No, it was just one card out of the set.
Oh, okay.
Out of the Mickey Mantle commemorative set. And that was also my card.
Okay, that was Kevin's. That sold for $14 on Mercari.
Yeah,
that was a good one. That sold on Mercari.
It was an insert.
Next up was a lot of 11 geography or geographic VHS videotapes. It included different tapes from like national parks like Yellowstone, Had stuff from like the pyramids of Egypt, something called Living Edens. We had gotten all of those at the thrift store. We paid $3.47 for them, and they sold for $24.99. So not bad on that.
And we got rid of another block.
Yeah, another block. Next up was a pair of the saltwater sandals. I had gotten these from a local kids shoe store that was liquidating some of their stock. I had paid $9.09 per pair, and this pair sold for $34.99. Next up was a J. Crew women's double extra small chambray denim button-up shirt. We got that at a thrift store for $3.78, and it sold for $19.99. Next up was a Lululemon women's size 2 aqua and white striped racerback athletic tank top. This I got at a garage sale for $5, and it sold for $15.24. Next up was a 2014 Starbucks 16-ounce coffee mug. It was from the Green Dot collection. And we got that out of the Goodwill bins. Amazingly, it wasn't broken. We paid just 94 cents for it.
It was a really cool looking mug, and I was surprised it took an eternity to sell.
Yeah, it did.
But it was a cool mug.
It was just not one of the high value ones, but we found it in the bins.
Yeah,
so of course, we're going to pick it up. And it sold for $19.99. Next up was our second banger of the week. This was a limited edition signed print called The Davia Brothers Bronc Riders by an artist named James Bama. This artist is, like, his art is not really my style, but But it's really good. I'm so impressed.
He's a good artist.
He is an amazing artist. It looks like a photograph. It really, truly looks like you're looking at a photograph. Detail. And he is a painter. These are prints that we have of his, but some of his stuff sells for, upwards of like $1,000. And we have several of his prints that are leftover stock from another business that we own. And we just have a bunch of old stock and like old, random stuff out in a storage shed that we're trying to clean out. So we've been cleaning all of that out and selling that old stuff. And this was in there. This one we had no cost on. This one sold for $554.98. So another.
And if
really
you can
good
see, the profit on this one was more than the profit on that painting we sold earlier, which we sold for like $100 more.
Yeah.
Because there was no promoted fee on this, just a regular fee. So the fees make a big difference.
They do. They do. Next up was a hand-carved olive wood tabletop religious cross. On the bottom was written John 14:6. Looked like a handmade item, and it was only about 2.5 inches tall. We found this in a storage unit. This is not an item that I would typically source, but from a storage unit, we already own it. We list everything, and surprising stuff sells. This sold for $11.18. Next up was a Radio Shack quick charge nickel cadmium battery charger. It was new in the package. We got this at a thrift store for $2.70, and it sold for $30 even. Next up was a pair of American Apparel women's jean shorts. We got these from a garage sale for $2.50, and they sold for $18.38. Next up was a book of worship for church and home. It was a 1965 hardcover Methodist book. We got that from a thrift store for 81 cents, and this sold on Poshmark for $13.
First time we ever sold a book on Poshmark.
Yeah. Next up was another Poshmark sale. This was a pair of Michael Kors genuine suede pointed toe pumps. We were gifted these to sell by a family member. We had no cost, and these sold for $25. And actually, you'll notice that we had sales on eBay, Mercari, and Poshmark this week.
Yeah.
So we have been actively cross-listing. That's kind of, been what we've been focusing on besides, listing new items on eBay. And it has been working. It's been paying off. So we use List Perfectly.
She sits there in bed as she goes to sleep with her laptop and
I do,
cross-posts.
And I cross-list on List Perfectly. We love List Perfectly. It's pretty easy to use, and it interfaces with so many different platforms. So if you guys are looking for a good cross-listing tool and want to check out List Perfectly,
yeah, link down below.
I do have a link down below that will give you 30% off your first month, so you can try it out at a discount. All right, last thing was a vintage lot of 2 1985 Mattel Tropical Barbie Miko or Skipper yellow ruffle accessory.
It's a mouthful.
This was gifted to us to sell by a family member. This came out of that big bag of Barbie items. We had a family member who sourced a big bag of vintage Barbie items, and this was in there. This is the second item to sell, and it sold for $10.38. And I was able to figure out a lot of it on my own by using Google Lens and different things like that. But this item I couldn't figure out, and I posted it to one of the Facebook doll groups that I'm a member of, and they identified it immediately. So if you're ever looking for assistance with like an action figure or a doll, there's groups for all kinds of different specialty items on Facebook. You can find a Facebook group that specializes in that collectible. Ask to join it, post the picture of your item, let them know that you've already done your research on Google Lens, but you can't identify it. And a lot of times you can get your items identified that way.
And I mean,
so
if
it
you
can be
have
really helpful.
knowledge on a subject, think about joining to help people out too.
Yeah, exactly. I actually identified several items for people on there as well. So, you know, return the favor.
Yeah.
Return the favor. All right, well, let's go over the totals. I'll let you do it.
All right. Total number of sales was 60. That's good. That's high.
Yeah.
Average sale price, boosted greatly by those two paintings, or the painting and the print, was $41.46. Total sales were $2,487.81. And a net profit of $1,575.59.
Yeah.
That was a really good week for us.
Very good week.
Yeah. It was a really good week. Let's keep doing that.
We're going to keep doing it. So if you want to see us keep doing it, make sure you hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. Make sure you hit that like button and comment below with your favorite item that we sold this week. That's not one of those art pieces. Let us know what your favorite item is. All right, well, thanks so much for joining, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.